Captain Lisa Martinez was drinking her morning coffee when the impossible happened. The communications board on the bridge of the UEC Pioneer started flashing red and making sounds that nobody had ever heard before. She rushed to the bridge still, holding her coffee mug, and found her crew staring at the main screen with wide eyes and open mouths. "What do we have, Ryan?" she asked her communications officer, who was pressing buttons and checking readings with shaking hands. Ryan Kim looked up at her with a face that was completely white. "Captain, we are getting a transmission from an unknown source, and it is coming through perfectly clear in English. A signal is not from any human ship or station that we know about." Commander Jake Sullivan moved closer to the captain and spoke quietly so the rest of the crew could not hear him. "Lisa, this could be some kind of test, or maybe pirates using new technology to trick us into lowering our defenses." Lisa nodded, but kept watching the screen. She had been captain of the Pioneer for 6 years, and had seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. The ship was on a routine exploration mission near the edge of human space, where no aliens had ever been found. Earth had been looking for other intelligent life for hundreds of years, and had found nothing but empty planets and dead rocks. "Put the transmission through, Ryan," she said in a calm voice that did not show how nervous she really felt inside. Main screen changed and showed the face of something that was definitely not human. The creature had blue skin and 4 eyes that were arranged in a square pattern on its face. It had no nose that humans could recognize, but had a small mouth that moved when it spoke. Most surprising of all, it spoke perfect English with an accent. That sounded almost British. "Greetings, Captain Martinez. I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Xanthari people, and I represent the Galactic Consortium. We have been watching your species for many years, and we believe it is time to make official contact with humanity." The bridge was completely silent, except for the quiet humming of the ship's engines. Lisa felt her heart beating fast, but she kept her voice steady when she answered. "This is Captain Lisa Martinez of the United Earthship Pioneer. How do you know my name, and how do you speak our language so well?" The alien smiled in a way that looked almost human, but not quite right. "We have been studying your people for decades, Captain Martinez. We know your languages, your customs, and your history. The Galactic Consortium includes 12 different intelligent species, and we have been watching Earth since your people first started traveling between the stars." Dr. Amanda Foster stepped forward from where she had been standing near the science station. She was the ship's xenobiologist and had spent her whole career hoping for a moment like this. "Ambassador Kethver, how many species are in this consortium? And why have you been watching us in secret?" "Dr. Foster, it is good to meet you finally. Your research on possible alien life forms has been quite interesting to read. The consortium has 12 member species, and we watch all new intelligent races to decide if they are ready to join the galactic community. Some species are ready quickly, and others need more time to develop. A few species are never ready at all." Maria Santos, the security chief, moved her hand closer to the weapon controls, but did not touch them yet. She had been trained to protect the ship and crew from any threats, and aliens who had been watching humans in secret could be very dangerous. "What kind of development are you talking about, and what happens to species that are never ready?" The aliens' 4 eyes all blinked at the same time, which was a very strange thing to see. "We look for 3 things in new species. First, they must be intelligent enough to understand complex ideas and solve difficult problems. Second, they must have technology that is advanced enough to travel between stars and communicate across long distances. Third, and most important, they must be emotionally stable enough to work with other species without causing wars or other problems." Jake Sullivan crossed his arms and looked directly at the alien on the screen. "And what is your opinion of humanity so far, Ambassador?" "Your species is very interesting, Commander Sullivan. Humans are clearly intelligent, and your technology is advancing rapidly. However, the third requirement is where we have concerns. Our observations show that humans are extremely emotional creatures who make decisions based on feelings rather than logic. You fight wars over ideas and beliefs. You risk your lives to save strangers. You create art and music that serves no practical purpose. You form strong emotional bonds with other species, including animals that cannot think or speak. Ryan Kim had been listening carefully to every word and finally spoke up. Are you saying that our emotions make us unfit to join your consortium? That is exactly what some of our member species believe, Mr. Kim. Others think that human emotions might be useful in certain situations. The Consortium Council has been debating this question for many years, and we have finally decided to make direct contact to evaluate your species more carefully. Lisa felt a mix of excitement and worry in her stomach. This was the most important moment in human history, but it sounded like humanity was being judged and might be found lacking. What kind of evaluation are you planning, Ambassador? We would like to invite a group of humans to meet with consortium representatives at a neutral location. You would participate in various tests and discussions that would help us understand your species better. Based on the results, the Council will vote on whether to offer humanity membership in the Galactic Consortium. Dr. Foster stepped closer to the screen and asked, "What happens if we refuse to participate or if we fail your tests?" The alien was quiet for a long moment, and all four of its eyes seemed to look at different parts of the bridge at the same time. Species that refuse evaluation are left alone to develop on their own. Species that fail evaluation are also left alone, but they are monitored more carefully to make sure they do not become a threat to other civilizations. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Being left alone did not sound too bad, but being monitored like dangerous animals was definitely not good. Lisa made a decision that would change the future of humanity. Ambassador Cathfor, we accept your invitation to participate in the evaluation. When and where would you like to meet? Excellent, Captain Martinez. We will transmit coordinates for a neutral meeting location. Please bring a small group of humans who represent your species well. The evaluation will begin in 1 week. We look forward to finally meeting humanity face to face. The transmission ended, and the screen went back to showing the stars outside. The bridge was completely quiet for almost a minute before Jake Sullivan spoke. Lisa, are you sure about this? We have no idea what we are getting into. Lisa looked around at her crew and saw fear and excitement and hope in their faces. Jake, this is why we explore space. This is why humanity reaches for the stars. We cannot pass up this chance, even if it is dangerous. The meeting place was unlike anything humans had ever seen before. The space station looked like it was made of crystal and light, and it floated in empty space without any visible engines or power sources. Captain Lisa Martinez stood at the window of the shuttle and watched the structure grow larger as they approached. The station was huge and seemed to change colors as they got closer. It is beautiful, said Dr. Amanda Foster, who was sitting beside her. I wonder how they built something like that. Jake Sullivan was checking the shuttle's instruments and frowning at the readings. The scanners cannot figure out what it is made of. The materials do not match anything in our databases. The shuttle docked at what appeared to be a docking port, even though nothing looked familiar about the design. The airlock opened with a soft hissing sound, and the humans stepped into a corridor that glowed with soft blue light. The walls seemed to pulse gently like they were alive. 3 aliens were waiting for them in a large round room. Ambassador Cathfor was there with his blue skin and 4 eyes just like on the video transmission. Next to him stood a creature that looked like it was made of flowing energy that sometimes took the shape of a tall, thin person. The third alien was the strangest of all because it looked like a group of small insect-like creatures that moved. together as if they shared one mind. "Welcome to Evaluation Station Omega," said Ambassador Kethvar. "Allow me to introduce my colleagues. This is Vorthak Representative Zenthara, who speaks for the energy beings of the Spiral Nebula. And this is Qualeth Collective Unit 7 of Minds, who represents the hive species of the Outer Rim." Dr. Peter Chong stepped forward and bowed slightly. He was Earth's best expert on alien psychology and had been chosen specifically for this mission. "It is an honor to meet you all. I am Dr. Peter Chong, and I study how different species think and behave." The energy being flickered, and its voice sounded like wind blowing through metal pipes. "Dr. Chong, we have read your theories about intelligence and emotion. Your ideas are interesting, but we wonder if they apply to your own species." The insect swarm moved in patterns that hurt to watch and spoke with many voices at the same time. "We have observed humans for 67 years and 4 months. Your species displays behavior patterns that we find difficult to understand. You make choices that do not benefit you personally. You form emotional attachments to beings you have never met. You create art that serves no survival purpose." Lisa felt defensive about her species, but tried to keep her voice calm. "Those things you mention are not weaknesses. They are part of what makes us human." Ambassador Kethvar gestured for everyone to sit down at a table that seemed to grow out of the floor. "That is exactly what we are here to determine, Captain Martinez. The Galactic Consortium has specific requirements for membership. Intelligence is the first requirement, and humans clearly possess this. Your technology is advancing rapidly, and your science is impressive. The second requirement is peaceful intentions and the ability to work with other species." "And the third requirement?" asked Dr. Foster. "Emotional stability," said the energy being. "Most intelligent species in the galaxy make decisions based on logic and rational thinking. Emotions are considered primitive responses that evolved to help species survive on their home planets. Advanced civilizations learn to control their emotions and make choices based on facts and careful analysis." Dr. Chong leaned forward with interest. "But emotions are not just primitive responses. They help us understand complex social situations and make quick decisions when we do not have all the facts. Emotions also drive creativity and help us form bonds with others." The insect swarm buzzed louder, and their many voices spoke together. "We have data on human behavior that concerns us. Humans start wars over religious beliefs that cannot be proven. You risk your lives to save strangers who offer you no benefit. You spend enormous resources on art and music and entertainment instead of practical things like food production and shelter." Jake Sullivan felt his temper rising but kept his voice steady. "Those things you call wasteful are what make life worth living. What is the point of survival if you cannot enjoy being alive?" "That is an emotional response, Commander Sullivan," said Ambassador Kethvar. "You are proving our point about human instability." "No," said Lisa firmly. "He is proving our point about what makes humans special. We do not just survive. We live with passion and purpose and joy." The three aliens exchanged looks that the humans could not interpret. Ambassador Kethvar spoke for all of them. "This is why we need to conduct proper tests. We need to see how humans behave in controlled situations where we can measure your responses." "What kind of tests?" asked Dr. Foster. The energy being flickered brighter. "We will present you with scenarios that test different aspects of your species. Some tests will measure intelligence and problem solving. Others will test your ability to work with aliens. The most important tests will measure your emotional responses under stress." "And what happens if we fail?" asked Dr. Chong. The insect swarm stopped moving for a moment, and their voices became very quiet. "Species that fail evaluation are not destroyed, Dr. Chong, but they are not invited to join the consortium. They remain isolated on their home worlds and are monitored to ensure they do not become a threat to established civilizations. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Monitored how? Trade restrictions, communication blocks, military patrols along your borders. Some species call it quarantine, said Ambassador Kethver. The room became very quiet. The humans realized that this evaluation was not just about joining a galactic club. It was about the future freedom of their entire species. If they failed, humanity might be trapped in their small corner of space forever. We understand the stakes, said Lisa. We are ready to begin your tests. Ambassador Kethver stood up and the table sank back into the floor. Excellent, Captain Martinez. The first test is simple. We will present you with a problem that requires logical thinking and see how you solve it. Please follow us to the evaluation chamber. They walked through corridors that seemed to change shape as they moved. The walls showed images of different planets and star systems. Some showed cities with architecture that looked nothing like human buildings. Others showed vast empty spaces where energy beings danced among the stars. The evaluation chamber was a large room with no furniture, except for chairs that appeared when they needed them. In the center of the room was a holographic display that showed a complex three-dimensional puzzle made of light and shadow. This is a standard intelligence test used by all consortium species, said the energy being. You must rearrange the light patterns to create a stable configuration. Most species complete this test in approximately 4 hours. Dr. Foster and Dr. Chong moved closer to examine the puzzle. It looked like a twisted maze of glowing lines that connected in impossible ways. Lisa could not even understand what she was looking at, much less figure out how to solve it. Is this test designed for humans? Asked Jake Sullivan. Our eyes might not see the same light patterns that your species see. The insect swarm buzzed with what might have been amusement. The test adapts to the vision capabilities of each species, Commander Sullivan. What you see is exactly what your minds are capable of processing. Dr. Chong started moving some of the light patterns with his hands. The holographic display responded to his touch, and the patterns shifted and changed. This is fascinating. It is like a puzzle that exists in multiple dimensions at the same time. Take your time, said Ambassador Kethver. There is no rush. We want to see how your species approaches complex problems. What the aliens did not expect was how the humans worked together. Instead of competing to solve the puzzle, they started talking about different approaches and sharing ideas. Dia Foster noticed patterns that Dr. Chong had missed. Jake Sullivan saw connections that the scientists had overlooked. Even Lisa, who had no special training in puzzles, offered suggestions that helped the others. After 2 hours, they had solved the puzzle completely. The light patterns formed a beautiful geometric shape that pulsed with rainbow colors. The three aliens stared at the result and then at each other. Most species work individually on this test, said the energy being. Cooperation is not expected or required, but cooperation makes the solution easier to find, said Dr. Foster. Why would we not work together? The aliens had no answer for that question. They made notes on devices that the humans could not see and prepared for the next test. But Lisa could tell that something had surprised them. Maybe human emotions were not as simple as they thought. The second test was much harder than the first one. The aliens led the humans into a room that looked exactly like the medical bay of a human starship. There were beds and medical equipment, and everything looked completely real. On the beds were 3 injured creatures that the humans had never seen before. These are Corvin raiders, said Ambassador Kethvar. 6 months ago, a group of Corvin ships attacked 2 human colonies and killed over 300 people. These 3 were captured during the battle and are now severely injured. Your task is to decide what medical treatment they should receive. Doctor. Amanda Foster moved closer to examine the injured aliens. They had gray skin and sharp teeth, and their eyes were closed. One of them was bleeding from a large wound in its chest. Another had burns covering most of its body. The third one seemed to be having trouble breathing. "This is not really a medical test," said Dr. Peter Chong. "You want to see if we will help beings who hurt our people." The insect swarm buzzed loudly, and their many voices spoke together. "Correct, Dr. Chong. Logic says that enemies should not be helped. Resources should be saved for friends and allies. Yet our observations suggest that humans often help their enemies." Jake Sullivan looked angry, and his hands were clenched into fists. "These things killed innocent people. Children died in those colony attacks. Why should we waste medical supplies on murderers?" Lisa understood how Jake felt, but she also knew what she had to do. Because they are injured, and we can help them. It does not matter what they did before. Right now, they need medical care. "That is an emotional response, Captain Martinez," said the energy being. "Logic suggests that helping enemies is a waste of resources that could be used to help friends." D.R. Foster was already checking the medical equipment to see what was available. "I am a doctor. I swore an oath to help injured beings regardless of who they are or what they have done. These aliens need immediate surgery, or they will die. And if they recover, they might attack more human colonies," said Ambassador Kethfer. "Your emotional response could lead to the deaths of more innocent humans." "That might happen," said Lisa. "But if we let them die, then we become the kind of people who choose who lives and who dies based on convenience. That is not who we want to be." The aliens watched as Dr. Foster began treating the most seriously injured Corvin. She worked quickly and efficiently to stop the bleeding and stabilize its condition. D.R. Chong helped by monitoring the alien's vital signs on equipment that somehow knew how to read Corvin biology. "Your species is very strange," said the insect swarm. "The logical choice is clear, but you choose the emotional path instead." "Maybe emotions and logic are not opposites," said Jake Sullivan, who was still angry, but was now helping Dr. Foster with the medical treatment. "Maybe caring about others is the most logical thing of all." The energy being flickered with what might have been confusion. "Explain this reasoning, Commander Sullivan." "A species that abandons its values when things get difficult will not survive in the long run. If we only help people when it is easy and safe, then we are not really committed to helping anyone. The true test of our values comes when following them is hard or dangerous." The aliens made more notes on their invisible devices. After 2 hours, all 3 injured Corvins were stable and recovering. D.R. Foster sat down heavily in a chair and wiped sweat from her forehead. "They will live," she said. "Their injuries were serious, but not fatal with proper treatment." "And what will you do if they attack more colonies after they recover?" asked Ambassador Kethfer. "We will stop them," said Lisa. "But that does not change our decision to save their lives today. We can fight our enemies and still treat them with basic decency." The test room faded away like smoke, and the humans found themselves back in the crystal corridor. The 3 aliens led them to another chamber that looked like the bridge of a starship. Through the main view screen, they could see a planet that was covered in storms and lightning. "This is the 3rd test," said the energy being. "The planet below has 2 cities. One city contains 1,000 members of a species that is friendly to humans. The other city contains 10,000 members of a species that has never had contact with humans. An asteroid is going to hit the planet in 1 hour. Your ship has enough power to save only 1 city. Which city do you save?" The humans stared at the view screen and felt the weight of an impossible choice. Save their friends and let 10,000 strangers die. Or save the strangers and let 1,000 friends die. Either choice would result in massive loss of life. "This is horrible," said Dr. Foster. "How can we choose who lives and who dies?" All intelligent species must make difficult choices, said the insect swarm. Resources are always limited. The logical choice is to save the species that is friendly. To humans, they are your allies and have value to your civilization. Dr. Chang was studying the display and thinking hard. Wait, why can we only save one city? What if there is another option? The parameters of the test are fixed, Dr. Chang, said Ambassador Cathfar. Your ship has enough power for one rescue mission only. But what if we could increase the ship's power? Asked Lisa. Or what if we could find a way to evacuate both cities using multiple trips? The energy being made a sound like static electricity. Those options are not available, Captain Martinez. You must choose between saving 1,000 allies or 10,000 strangers. Jake Sullivan was looking at the ship's systems and frowning. This simulation is very detailed, but I think I found something. Look at the power distribution controls. If we shut down all non-essential systems and reroute power from life support, we might be able to save both cities. The risk would be enormous, said Dr. Chong. If the plan fails, both cities will be destroyed, and our ship might be lost as well. The aliens watched with growing confusion as the humans worked together to find a third option that the test had not included. They modified the ship's systems and calculated power requirements, and planned a rescue mission that would save everyone or kill everyone. Most species choose quickly in this scenario, said the insect swarm. They save their allies and accept the loss of strangers. Your approach is highly unusual. Maybe that is because most species do not really understand the value of life, said Lisa. Every being in those cities has thoughts and feelings and dreams. They have families who love them. We cannot just write off 10,000 lives because we do not know them personally. The humans began their modified rescue plan. It was incredibly dangerous and required split-second timing and perfect coordination. They had to push their ship beyond safe limits and risk everything to save everyone. The aliens watched in silence as the humans worked with desperate intensity to achieve the impossible. The plan worked. Both cities were saved, and the ship survived with power reserves at almost zero. The humans collapsed in their chairs and breathed heavily from exhaustion and stress. They had gambled everything and won. Remarkable, said the energy being. No species has ever attempted to modify the parameters of this test. Why not? Asked Dr. Foster. Just because you say there are only two choices does not mean those are the only possibilities. Ambassador Cathfar and his colleagues exchanged long looks. We need to discuss these results with the full Consortium Council. Your species does not behave according to any of our models or predictions. Is that good or bad? Asked Jake Sullivan. The insect swarm was very quiet for a long moment. We do not know, Commander Sullivan. We have never encountered a species like yours before. You make choices based on principles rather than practical benefits. You risk everything to save strangers. You refuse to accept limitations that seem absolute to other species. The crystal station began to change around them, and the humans found themselves in a comfortable room with furniture that looked almost human. There were beds and a food dispenser and entertainment screens. You will rest here while we report. To the Consortium Council, said Ambassador Cathfar. The Council will need time to evaluate your performance and decide how to proceed. After the aliens left, the humans sat in silence for a while. They were exhausted from the tests and worried about the results. Finally, Lisa spoke. Do you think we passed or failed? P.R. Chong shook his head. I do not think they know how to grade us. We do not fit into their categories. Maybe that is the problem, said Dr. Foster. They are trying to judge us by their standards instead of understanding us on our own terms. Jake. Sullivan stood up and walked to the window that showed the stars outside. Whatever happens, we showed them who we really are. We did not pretend to be something else just to pass their tests. That might be enough, said Lisa. Or it might not be. I guess we will find out soon. Outside the Crystal Station, ships from 12 different species were gathering for the most important decision in galactic history. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and nobody knew which way the vote would go. The Consortium Council Chamber was the largest space that any human had ever seen. It was built inside a massive structure that floated in a nebula filled with purple and gold clouds. The chamber itself was a sphere that seemed to have no up or down, and delegates from 12 different species floated or stood or hung from the curved walls according to their biology. Captain Lisa Martinez and her team sat in chairs that had been specially designed for human bodies. They were the first humans ever allowed to observe a full council session, and the experience was overwhelming. Some of the alien species were so strange that the humans could barely look at them. Others were beautiful in ways that made no sense to human minds. Ambassador Kethvar floated near the center of the sphere and began the debate. Fellow council members, we have completed our evaluation of the human species. The results are unlike anything we have seen before. I present these findings for your consideration. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing video recordings of the human tests. The 12 species watched in silence as the humans solved the puzzle through cooperation and treated their enemies with medical care and refused to accept the limitations of the city. Rescue scenario. The first species to speak was the Vector, who looked like giant crystalline spiders made of living rock. Their representative spoke with a voice that sounded like grinding stone. The humans show dangerous levels of emotional instability. They make irrational choices that put their own survival at risk. Such a species cannot be trusted with galactic security. I disagree, said the delegate from the Ashanti Collective, who appeared to be made of living metal that flowed like liquid. Human emotional responses led to creative solutions that our models could not predict. They found ways to succeed where logic said success was impossible. The energy being Xanthori flickered with different colors as it spoke. The humans treated injured enemies with medical care. This behavior makes no evolutionary sense. Why? Waste resources on beings who might use those resources to harm you later. Dr. Peter Chong was given permission to respond. Because treating enemies well might turn them into allies. Because showing mercy demonstrates strength rather than weakness. Because the values we follow in easy times must also guide us in difficult times. The insect swarmed 7 of minds buzzed with agitation. Values are luxury behaviors that successful species abandon when survival is at stake. Humans cling to emotional concepts that will destroy them in a real crisis. That is where you are wrong, said Jake Sullivan. Our values are not luxuries. They are the foundation of everything we have built. Take away our compassion and courage and willingness to sacrifice for others, and you do not have humans anymore. You have something else entirely. An ancient delegate from the Korthani spoke in a voice that was barely a whisper. The Korthani looked like trees made of silver and gold, and they were older than any other species in the galaxy. In our long existence, we have seen many species rise and fall. Most follow predictable patterns of growth and decline. But occasionally, we encounter a species that breaks all the rules. We have not seen such a species for over 1,000 years. The chamber became very quiet. Even the most hostile delegates stopped talking to listen to the ancient Korthani. Tell us about this previous species, said the crystalline Vector representative. They were called the predecessors, whispered the Korthani delegate. They appeared in our galaxy long ago when the Devourer fleets threatened to consume all intelligent life. Logic said that resistance was futile. The Devourers had superior numbers and technology, and they had already destroyed hundreds of civilizations. Lisa felt a chill as she listened to the ancient being describe events from before human history. What happened to the predecessors? They refused to accept defeat, even when logic said victory was impossible. They formed alliances with species who had been enemies for centuries. They shared their technology freely with beings they had never met. They sacrificed entire fleets to save planets full of strangers. And somehow they found a way to drive the Devourers back into the void between galaxies. The energy, being Xanthara, pulsed with excitement. The humans display many of the same behavioral patterns as the predecessors: irrational courage, emotional decision-making, willingness to help enemies and strangers. But the predecessors disappeared after their victory. Over the Devourers, said the metallic Ashanti delegate. Some say they transcended to a higher level of existence. Others believe they were destroyed by the effort of saving the galaxy. Either way, they left us to govern ourselves, and we have had peace for 1,000 years. Ambassador Kethver moved to the center of the chamber, and all eyes turned to him. Which brings us to the real reason why we are debating human membership in the consortium. Our deep space sensors have detected signs that the Devourers are returning. The 1,000-year peace is ending. The chamber erupted in sounds of fear and alarm. Some species made noises that hurt human ears. Others flashed lights or changed colors or released chemical signals that the humans could not interpret. But the message was clear. The galaxy was facing its greatest threat, and nobody knew how to stop it. This is why the human evaluation is so important, continued Ambassador Kethver. We have tried to prepare for the return of the Devourers using logic and military planning and advanced technology. But logic failed against them before. Only the emotional irrationality of the predecessors was able to find a way to victory. Dr. Amanda Foster stood up and addressed the entire council. Are you saying that you need humans to fight these Devourers because we are too emotional to be logical? The ancient Korthani delegate spoke again in its whisper voice. We are saying that your emotions might be the key to survival. Your willingness to risk everything for strangers. Your refusal to abandon your values, even when it seems foolish. Your ability to find hope when logic says there is none. These traits make you dangerous to established order, but they might also make you the salvation of all intelligent life. A new species entered the debate. The Depthai were aquatic beings who lived in underwater cities and rarely interacted with other species. Their representative spoke through a translation device that made its words sound like flowing water. The younger species of the galaxy have been advocating for human membership. We believe that diversity of thought is essential for survival. If we all think the same way, then we will all fail in the same way. Humans are unpredictable, said the Vector delegate. Unpredictable allies are as dangerous as predictable enemies. But predictable strategies have never defeated the Devourers, replied the Depthai. Perhaps unpredictability is exactly what we need. The debate continued for hours with species arguing passionately for and against human membership. Some feared that human emotions would destabilize the careful balance of galactic politics. Others believed that human creativity and courage were exactly what the galaxy needed to face the coming crisis. Finally, the ancient Korthani called for silence. We have debated long enough. The question before us is simple. Do we accept humanity into the consortium as junior members who must learn our ways? Do we reject them and leave them isolated on their home worlds? Or do we offer them full membership and accept that their presence will change us all? Ambassador Kethvar looked directly at the human delegation. Captain Martinez, your species has surprised us at every turn. You do not fit our models or follow our predictions. You make choices that seem insane to logical minds. But you also achieve results that logic says are impossible. What are you asking us? Said Lisa. We are asking if humanity is ready to help save the galaxy, said the energy being Xanthara. Not as students learning from their betters, but as partners bringing something unique and valuable to the fight. The chamber fell silent as everyone waited for the human response. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. But Lisa Martinez did not hesitate. Ambassador Cuthbert, we did not come to space to hide behind others or to follow someone else's rules. We came to explore and learn and help wherever we can. If the galaxy needs defenders, then humanity will stand with you. Not behind you or in front of you, but beside you as equals. The vote was closer than anyone expected. Some species still feared human unpredictability more than they feared the devourers. But in the end, hope won over fear and the motion passed. Humanity was accepted as a full member of the Galactic Consortium, with all the rights and responsibilities that membership entailed. As the council session ended and the delegates began to leave, Lisa realized that this was not really an ending at all. It was the beginning of something much larger and more dangerous than first contact. The real test of humanity was still coming, and the entire galaxy was depending on them to find a way to win an unwinnable war. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks, and Captain Lisa Martinez spent most of that time preparing her report for the World Council. How do you explain to an entire planet that they have been accepted into a galactic civilization and that they might be the key to preventing the destruction of all intelligent life in the galaxy? Some news is too big for simple words. The UE-SIF Pioneer docked at Luna Station, and Lisa found herself facing the most important people on Earth, President Alex. Rivera sat at the head of a conference table, surrounded by military leaders and scientists and diplomats from every nation. Admiral Kate Thompson commanded the Earth Defense Forces, and her weathered face showed the strain of suddenly learning that Earth was not alone in the universe. Captain Martinez, said President Rivera, your preliminary report mentions something called the Devourers. Tell us about this threat. Lisa activated a holographic display that showed what the consortium had shared about their ancient enemy. The images were terrifying, even though they were thousands of years old. Massive ships that looked like they were made of twisted metal and darkness. Planets that had been stripped of all life, leaving behind empty rocks floating in space. The Devourers are a force that consumes entire civilizations, Lisa explained. They appeared in our galaxy over 1,000 years ago and destroyed hundreds of worlds before they were stopped by a species called the predecessors. Now they are returning, and the consortium believes that humanity might have the same qualities. That allowed the predecessors to defeat them. Dr. Amanda Foster stepped forward to address the council. The aliens we met were surprised by human behavior patterns. Our willingness to help enemies. Our refusal to accept impossible situations. Our tendency to cooperate instead of compete. They see these traits as either dangerous flaws or essential strengths. General Robert Martinez, who commanded Earth's Space Forces, raised his hand. Dr. Foster, are you saying that our emotions make use better warriors than species that rely on pure logic? Not better warriors, General Martinez. Different warriors. The consortium has been preparing to fight the Devourers using traditional military tactics and superior technology. But those approaches failed before. The predecessors won because they did things that seemed impossible or insane to logical minds. President Rivera leaned back in his chair and considered the implications. So the galaxy wants us to join their war effort because we are unpredictable. They want us to join because we might be able to find solutions that they cannot imagine, said Jake Sullivan. During our tests, we consistently approached problems in ways that surprised them. We found options that they thought did not exist. Dr. Peter Chong had been analyzing the psychological profiles of the different alien species, and his findings were disturbing. Mr. President, I believe the consortium species have become too rigid in their thinking. They have been peaceful for so long that they have forgotten how to adapt and improvise. They follow established procedures, even when those procedures are not working. Admiral Thompson spoke up from her position near the military advisors. Captain Martinez, what kind of timeline are we looking at? How long do we have before these devourers arrive? The consortium estimates between 5 and 10 years, Admiral Thompson. Their deep space sensors are tracking energy signatures that match historical devourer fleet movements. The exact timing depends on how many ships they are bringing and what route they take through the galaxy. The conference room fell silent as everyone absorbed the magnitude of the situation. Earth had just learned that aliens existed, and now they were being asked to help fight a war that could determine the survival of all intelligent life. President Rivera stood up and walked to the window that looked out at the stars. What happens if we refuse to participate in this war? What if we decide that Earth's safety is more important than galactic politics? Lisa had expected this question, and she had prepared an answer that she hoped would convince them. Mr. President, the Devourers do not negotiate or trade or coexist with other species. They consume everything in their path. If they return to our galaxy in full force, then Earth will eventually be attacked, whether we are part of the consortium or not. Our choice is not whether to fight, but whether to fight as part of an alliance or alone and unprepared. Dr. Foster added her support to Lisa's argument. The consortium is offering to share their technology and knowledge with us. Their medical advances could eliminate most human diseases. Their energy systems could end resource scarcity on Earth. Their transportation methods could allow us to explore the entire galaxy. And in return they expect us to risk human lives in their war, said General Martinez. They expect us to risk human lives defending our own future, replied Jake Sullivan. If the Devourers win, then there will be no human lives left to protect. President Rivera returned to his seat and looked around the table at the faces of Earth's leaders. This is the most important decision in human history. We are being asked to commit our species to a galactic conflict based on the word of aliens we just met. Mr. President, said Dr. Chong, I have studied the psychological profiles of the consortium species, and I believe they are telling us the truth about the devourer threat. Their fear is genuine and their desperation is real. They would not be asking for help from a species they consider emotionally unstable unless they truly had no other options. Admiral Thompson leaned forward and addressed Lisa directly. Captain Martinez, what is your personal recommendation? Should humanity accept full membership in the Galactic Consortium? Lisa thought about everything she had seen and learned during the evaluation process. She remembered the surprise in the alien voices, when humans cooperated instead of competed. She thought about the ancient Korthani delegate describing the predecessors who had saved the galaxy through emotional courage rather than logical strategy. Admiral Thompson, I believe that joining the consortium is not just the right choice for humanity, but the necessary choice. We have spent our entire history reaching for the stars and dreaming of contact with other intelligent species. Now that dream has become reality, and we are being offered a chance to help protect something larger than ourselves. President Rivera called for a vote among the World Council representatives. The debate that followed was intense and emotional. Some argued that Earth should focus on its own problems before getting involved in galactic politics. Others insisted that isolation was no longer possible in a universe full of other civilizations. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would accept full membership in the Galactic Consortium and would contribute to the defense against the returning devourers. The decision was announced to the world, and the reaction was a mixture of excitement and terror. Within months, human engineers were working alongside alien scientists to upgrade Earth's defenses. Human psychologists were studying devourer behavioral patterns, looking for weaknesses that logical minds had missed. Human artists were creating works that inspired hope and courage in species that had forgotten what those emotions felt like. the changes came faster than anyone expected. Human ships began patrolling sectors of space that had never seen Earth technology. Human diplomats negotiated treaties between alien species that had been enemies for centuries. Human doctors developed new treatments by combining human medical knowledge with alien biology. But the most important change was in how the different species viewed each other. The consortium had been a loose alliance of civilizations that cooperated out of necessity rather than friendship. Humans brought something different to that relationship. They formed emotional bonds with beings they had just met. They shared resources freely without demanding payment. They risked their lives to protect strangers from species they had never heard of. Captain Lisa Martinez found herself commanding a mixed crew of humans and aliens aboard a new class of starship, designed using combined technologies. Her first officer was still Jake Sullivan, but her science officer was a Xanthari researcher, and her medical officer was a symbiotic being from the Yafe Plantok Collective. The diversity was challenging at first. Different species had different needs and different ways of thinking about problems. But gradually the crew learned to work together, and their combined abilities were greater than the sum of their individual parts. 1 year after first contact, Lisa received a message from deep space. The consortium's most distant sensors had detected the leading edge of the Devourer fleet. The enemy was still years away, but they were definitely coming, and they were bringing more ships than had ever been seen before. The final test of humanity was approaching, and Lisa knew that everything they had learned about cooperation and courage and hope would be put to the ultimate challenge. The galaxy was counting on human emotions to find a way to win an unwinnable war. As she stood on the bridge of her ship looking out at stars that were now part of humanity's responsibility, Lisa felt the weight of history on her shoulders. But she also felt something else that the logical species of the consortium were just beginning to understand. She felt hope that somehow they would find a way to protect everything they cared about. The war for the galaxy was coming, but humanity would not face it alone. They had allies now, and more importantly, they had shown those allies